Hi, friends. Thank you so very much for going on this 30-day video devotional towards better relationships. Listen, 2014 is the year to do relationships better. And it has been a joy sharing with my dear friends, tremendous people as individuals, but also great leaders in their respective fields of influence. And what we've been doing is just sitting around and discussing my new book called The People Factor. I pray that you've been reading it with us. I know that it's been a blessing to your life. But just by chance, if you haven't picked it up, make sure that you do that on today, because I really believe that there's some things in this book that will help you and help your future. Now, this is a big one, chapter 12, and I call it Kissing Oprah Goodbye. Not Oprah, I almost said Oprah, it's so easy. But I call it Kissing Oprah Goodbye, because one of the most important things you have to do is you got to recognize who's going to be in your life for the long term. The real central premise of this is that a lot of people don't know the difference between covenant partners and halfway friends. And there is a difference. And the inability to diagnose whether or not somebody is a halfway friend or a covenant partner really will determine happiness or a lot of unnecessary frustration. Some of the greatest pains in my life, and even as I've counseled people, some of the greatest disappointments is because they misdiagnosed a person in their life. They thought that that person was a covenant partner when in reality, they were just a halfway friend. A halfway friend will be with you in certain moments of your life, but a covenant partner will be there through thick and thin, whether you got it, whether you don't have it, whether it's a great day or whether it is the worst moment of your life. And so many individuals mistakenly think that I have a covenant partner, when in actuality, all they were a halfway friend. We got a dialogue about this one. I'm dying for us to jump into this. Tasha, what do you think?
For me in this chapter, what stands out is the fact that the goodbye that occurred between these women. Some people may say it was callous or nonchalant, but I think it was respectful. It was a kiss and a walking away, a separation of that time and that energy in that moment. You know, this relationship is not what I thought it was, right, or what I needed to be in the future for where I'm headed. And I love that there was someone else present for you to be able to compare. Right. She was able to compare in this relationship. No, this is the standard. See, she's saying wherever you go, I'll go. Wherever your God and whoever your God is, that's my God. And so to have that comparison, I think that may happen more often than we realize, right, that there is someone present that you can say, are you willing to do the things that she's willing to do or he's willing to do, or make that sacrifice? You know, is this individual willing to make the sacrifices to stand with me? Yeah, that really stuck out to me, that sometimes in covenant, there is an exchange.
Very much so.
That has to happen. And I love that you've given us so many listings in the book of how to recognize that covenant partner. Right. You know, don't be the individual that runs away in difficult moments. I was sharing with you guys a moment ago that I have a confidant who reminded me of a time when she was having difficulty, and I was there for her. Didn't even realize that I was there for her to the capacity that I was. But I think for her, and prayerfully for her, it showed her that she had a covenant partner in me. And I desire to be that. And this is a guideline, not only to recognize those individuals, but to be that individual.
That's good.
You know, Tasha, one of the things I'm sitting here thinking about as you were discussing, you know, your thoughts about this particular chapter, and this is just, my mind went here when it comes to, we talk about friends and people that are halfway friends or whatever. But I think about lease, meaning a lease of a car. Because leasing a car, you have a certain number of miles you can put on a car. And you can't drive a car. If you do, per year, you can either keep it a certain amount of time, but you can only drive for so many miles. The problem is, though, if you drive too many miles on the car, you got to pay for it. And that's what hit me. I was sitting there, and it was crazy because it hit my mind. You got to pay for it in the end. You either get rid of the car, or you keep it, and you got to pay for it. And that just really struck me, and I was like, wow. I'm like, man, just those t-shirts, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so true.
You keep it longer than you need to, you're going to pay for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good.
Wow.
Putting miles on it. Just putting miles on it.
Just driving the brakes off the car.
Going nowhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That the way I sometimes think about it is how, like milk, sometimes people have expiration dates on them.
And you talked about that. You talked about that.
And if you keep them longer, then that expiration date, they'll spoil on you.
Because I'd be mad. I pour some cereal and I got some lumpy milk.
That's right.
I'd be mad.
And you are mad.
You're mad, absolutely. You want to, you got your mind set up. I'm about to get some cereal, man. I got this on my mind all day, and then you pour it in there and it's lumpy. Oh,
But
man.
how many times has that happened to us in our relationships?
A lot.
When you called them expecting one thing, or reached out to them, or spent time with them expecting one thing, and what they gave you was something spoiled and lumpy.
Wow.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Well, that was friends. Guys, I grew up in a rural area. So, you know, when it started to get dark, I would always ask my aunt, can Beverly walk me halfway home? The thing about that is I knew when we left, she was only going halfway. And I remember how dark it was and how scary it was going alone that other halfway. The problem is with the halfway friends, you don't know that ahead of time. You don't know that ahead of time, and you're walking and this person is walking along beside you and you look around and they're no longer there. That hurts.
That's terrible.
That hurts. And so you end up walking down this path of darkness even more afraid now because one is dark and it's scary, but two, you thought you had someone going along with you and they're no longer there.
Stephanie, that was phenomenal. You're so transparent with us. Thank you so much. You knew she was going to walk you halfway. I think sometimes in life, when you're in a covenant relationship with someone and they drop you off halfway, you're talking about half of the married people in America who experience divorce. I've been there. That's why every divorced person needs chapter 12. Because if I have no clue, as I'm going to get married soon, again, praise God. But if I have no clue as to what a covenant relationship looks like, I might get dropped off halfway, and I'm determined not to let that happen. And I don't want to leave anyone else halfway. With my new fiance, he's been through it. I had a tumor. My dad died. My apartment caught on fire, and that's not a bad country song. That's what happened. And it happened really close together, and he was still standing. His eyes were like, okay, but he was still standing. In covenant relationship, if I'm learning correctly, Pastor Van, it's that person who's still standing when you're in the war, when you're in the storm, when you're in the rough.
Yeah, when the smoke clears, they're going to still be there.
Like Superman.
Well, I'm really full from really the discussion, largely because I think this is one of those kind of chapters and one of those kind of subjects that people don't talk about, that we should talk about more. I think so many people are struggling silently because, unfortunately, the majority of the relationships in their lives are not covenant ones, they're halfway ones. And I think the end result is a lot of times people end up lonely and depressed and end up almost living dysfunctional lives. We were talking earlier about the unfortunate suicides that's been happening with leaders and some of the other things that have happened, and it's because I think they have more halfway relationships instead of covenant partners. Stephanie, your point about knowing that that family member was only going to walk halfway with you made the difference. But often in relationships, we think that some of these people are going to go all the way with us, and it hurts when we look around, particularly in the worst moments of our lives, and we really need a friend, and they're not there. So for those of you watching, get the book, but also make sure that you look at how you can properly assess and diagnose the difference between a halfway friend and a covenant partner. And my encouragement to you is simply this: make sure that you have more covenant partners than halfway friends so that your life can move forward and be healthy and you can be happy because at the end of the day, that is really important. So I'm excited about this discussion. I know that the book is going to bless you. Make sure that you get it. And you know what? Tweet about it, Facebook about it. Hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. If any of these discussions have really meant something to you, I'd love to hear from you. Take care.